Joining us now, Democratic Senator Sheldon Whitehouse of Rhode Island. The senator's out with a new book, Captured: The Corporate Infiltration of American Democracy. And it's great to have you on the show.
Thank you, Mika. Good to be with you.
So the book is about the fight against money in politics, or where are we beginning here?
Well, you start with corporations out lobbying the world by 30 to 1. You add that one corporate fund alone spent $700 million in the last election, is promising to spend $400 million in the next. You go to administrative agencies where regulatory capture is a phenomenon that is renowned. You go to the courts that are increasingly packed with business-friendly judges and juries that are virtually extinct. And you have things like the climate denial operation, which is the first alternative facts operation, and you put all that together, and what you end up with is a government that's not very responsive to the American people.
So did this explain Bernie's rise?
I think it explains both Bernie's rise and Trump's rise. Yeah.
Isn't it?
I think people are ticked off that people aren't listening to them, and this is one of the reasons people aren't listening.
Isn't that crazy on both sides? You actually had the two candidates that were the least reliant on Wall Street money during the campaign.
Yeah.
I was going to say.
And of course,
during the campaign.
Yeah. Of course, now that's all changed. Goldman Sachs and all the tentacles moved back in around Trump.
Can you explain that? Why does that happen? Whether you have a Republican in the White House or a Democrat in the White House, an outsider or an insider in the White House, Goldman Sachs always ends up running Treasury.
Well, I think this book tries to explain that there's a network of corporate influence that they can play their hands through, and they're also very clever about not trying to take credit. Nobody puts a press release out when they've gotten a senator to say, okay, I'm not going to mess around with climate change anymore. Nobody puts a flag over the regulatory agency that they have just captured. They do it quietly. And the danger now is that this, with sort of orange meteor of Trump coming across the political firmament, tweeting and getting everybody's attention, the quiet, surreptitious encroachment of these vast powers that make money off of playing in politics will get even less noticed.
Yeah, they're okay with Trump bashing them. They don't care.
They don't care.
They don't care about what Trump says. They care about what he does, and what he's done has been pretty clear, right?
Handed over EPA to the fossil fuel industry, handed Treasury over to Goldman Sachs. I mean, pick your poison.
Got rid of the law that would have made financial advisors
actually have to put the first interests of their clients first. Yeah.
So, like, what scares you the most, though, right now? Like, I mean, with them sort of, you know, what is for you on the horizon? Yeah.
What scares me the most is that people will lose their faith in American democracy and get angry at our system of government when it is actually the victim in the piece and not the villain in the piece, and that we won't step up and try to solve this problem of corporate influence in politics that pervades so much of our frustration.
Well, the people already are angry at the government. That's how Donald Trump got elected. But once he got in, it's a cabinet of plutocrats again. So how does this?
I think it's a missed target to blame the government for this. I think the government has been more or less occupied by corporate forces, and if you could withdraw them, so how do you go back to a world in which we were actually a lot more comfortable with our government again, and people felt they had a chance?
That's a big task. So how do you do it, or where do you begin to withdraw those people?
Well, disclosure, getting corporations out of politics, and people being more active. This set of forces would love to have everybody sit on the couch and treat citizenship as consumership. But that's not the way the Founding Fathers had this in mind. A citizen is an active role, and we need to kind of get back to that. You can't just sit on your couch and wait to see whose ad ticks you off the most, and whose manipulation of your Facebook tingles your receptors the most. You've got to kind of decide what you care about.
So where do protests we're seeing stand in what you're saying in terms of you've got to be active?
Well, I think they're a sign of activity. I don't know that they've kind of come into focus on this particular problem, which is one of the reasons I wanted to write this book, because I see it up close and personal every day.
Well, you actually had a couple weeks ago protests at one of your town hall meetings.
Yeah, people are ticked.
And what were they protesting?
They were protesting basically the fact that Trump was president and the fact that the world had appeared to have come unhinged, and they wanted really strong statements, particularly from progressive Democrats like myself, that I was going to resist and fight and push back. And because I'd supported some of the members of the national security team who I felt created a cordon of grown-ups around the White House that was actually a safeguard for everybody.
That's right.
They didn't see it that way, and that was part of it. Pompeo was the greatest irritant to those folks.
Who actually is, again, another independent-minded guy that spent his time in the House of Representatives basically pushing back.
And appears to have already pushed back against Trump on several occasions.
Pushing back on Trump, pushing up against his allies at the Wall Street Journal. What about McMaster? We're hearing nothing but praise.
Hey, every time they add a grown-up into that equation, we should all be happy. And I think McMaster is a certified card-carrying grown-up and a very, very respected military officer among his peers.
This is good news. I haven't
heard
one thing wrong with
I was going to say, so I asked you what scared you. I mean, is that what gives you hope, the fact that we have him seeming to pick like one more grown-up?
Well, that protects against what one Republican witness in the armed services called the wildly stupid, dangerous, and illegal decisions that the White House could be expected to make. That's the Republican witness talking. So that's one small piece, but that doesn't really affect this larger problem of a government that is non-responsive to human beings because it has become so dependent on corporate support and is so infiltrated by corporate power.
So how does the Democratic Party push back against that urge? You look at the candidate that ran in 2016, and there was no Democratic candidate ever more connected to Wall Street or big money, massive money, than Hillary Clinton and Bill Clinton. Where does the Democratic Party go from here?
I think we missed having this message, and I think
you
it's
didn't miss it.
one
You just
that's
had there was actually someone with this exact message.
Well, Bernie, I guess, would be a pretty fair
Bernie had that
descriptor of this message. But I mean, we've been here before, and it was, you know, Teddy Roosevelt who led the progressives against the last time that corporations took over. We won that fight. And then they've kind of crept their way back in again, and now we have to have that fight all over again. But I think Democrats ought to make this a priority, and they ought to have confidence that if Teddy Roosevelt, and by the way, FDR was a pretty strong fighter on this as well. If they can do it, we can do it. And with modern media and all the ways that people can get to folks through social media, it's even more dangerous now than it was back in the era of those first progressives.
Senator Sheldon Whitehouse, the book has captured the corporate infiltration of American democracy. Looks like an absolutely great read.
Thank you very much for being on.
Willie and I are just
nice to have me on.
Do you have any chickens in your Senate office?
No,
any
just
chickens
say
there at
no.
all? Mika has chickens all over
Chickens?
the place.
Hey, I'm from Rhode Island. We've got the Rhode Island Red.
Oh, yes,
Our
I
state
have one.
bird is the
Gina.
Rhode Island Red. It
Gina.
Is Gina Rhode Island?
It's a great bird.
She is.
Okay.
All right, Senator, thank you so much for being on.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thanks for checking out MSNBC on YouTube, and make sure you subscribe to stay up to date on the day's biggest stories. And you can click on any of the videos around us to watch more from Morning Joe and MSNBC. Thanks so much for watching.